Money Vikings, welcome back to the channel. Got a good one for you today. I want to talk about rules of thumb when it comes to managing our personal finance. And these are important because they give us a sense of how much should we be spending in accordance with our income on housing? How much about should we be spending on a vehicle? How much should we really be spending every month on food and groceries or insurance or contributing? And so there's a whole chapter in our new book, Wealth, the Money Viking Way. And if you haven't picked up a copy, check it out on Amazon. I'll put a link down below in the comment section. But I think you'll find this very valuable. So there's a lot in this book. And there's a chapter 7, which is rules of thumb for the big things. And let me talk first about why I say the big things. I'm a huge believer in getting the big things right, and then you'll live a better life, because you're then not so worried about the little things. I want to go to meet a friend at Starbucks. Yeah, I shouldn't be spending $6 on coffee. We all know we shouldn't be spending $6 on coffee. But feeling guilty about it and not doing those little things, those little luxuries, do affect us. For some people, going to get that coffee every morning is a ritual that means a lot to them. It is a connection with other people. It is a little bit of a treat before they have to face various challenges of their workday. And so to just make people feel guilty about it and say, never do that, you can't do that, don't do that, you're bad, that doesn't really work. Shaming ourselves and shaming other people doesn't work. And that's a big part of this book, Wealth, the Money Viking Way, as far as personal finance books go, is that this is not a book about shaming people. It's not about you feeling bad. It's about you being empowered. You're becoming a Viking warrior. So you're going to be stronger. You're going to be stronger by utilizing the techniques here. So let's talk about it. This chapter starts, I've got rules of thumb for the big things. And what I do is to the left, I actually put together a list of the 7 big things to become wealthy. And, there are things like building a budget, automating your investing longboats, building a strategically diversified portfolio. I go into detail about how to do these things. But let's go into the rules for the big things. And one thing in here, so I talk about an average person that has $700 a month in car payments, $5,000 a month for their rent or primary residence, $20,000 in credit cards at 21% interest. They're taking the $7,000 vacation, they're $50,000 in school debt. So that person right off the bat is just really treading water to try to stay ahead. So what I would say is take a holistic approach to getting the big things right. So the first part of it, I talk about your primary housing. So what is the rule of thumb for housing? The rule is to spend no more than, now it's always good to be below these if you can, but spend no more than 30% of your gross income on housing. And so I gave an example here. So if a person makes $60,000 a year, their gross monthly income is $5,000. And so they should be spending between $1,500 to $2,000 basically on housing every month. So they should have no more rent than $1,500 to $2,000 a month in housing costs. Now it goes up from there. If a person's making $80,000 a year, they can spend between roughly $2,000 to $2,300 or $2,400 on housing. That's a mortgage or rent. If they're making $100,000 a year, that number is going to bump up to, they should be spending somewhere between $2,400 to $3,400 a month on rent or your mortgage. So, those are good. Now, if we can get below those, that's ideal, of course. But, that just gives you a sense of how we should spend. The last one I'm going to talk about. So, I do have a rule here. This is kind of my own rule of thumb for cars. My rule of thumb for cars is as follows. You buy a middle of the road, no pun intended or pun intended, gently used, safe model, and you drive it for at least 10 years. I have bought new cars before and I've bought used cars. There is something nice about buying a new car, but my rule of thumb is, you're going to be in the, you're kind of, in my mind, we want to be in the Kia, the Toyota, the Honda, the Ford kind of realm, median price, and you really want to drive it for at least 10 years. The reason for that is that it drives down the annual cost of ownership. So that's the rule of thumb. If you have that car, if you spend $30,000 on that car, which is a lot of money, let's say you spend $30,000 and you drive it for 10 years, you've driven down the price per year to $3,000 a year. So that's pretty reasonable. That's a pretty reasonable level. So, so there's more in here. There's a bunch of other rules of thumb, but I wanted to share that aspect of the book. So check it out below, Wealth, the Money Viking Way. All right, folks, thanks.